The news now on BBC One with Michael Beurk.
The leader of Scotland's Catholics is offering money and help to women with unwanted pregnancies all over Britain to stop them having abortions. Albania's rebels stick to their guns despite more government concessions. And a British win in the Australian Grand Prix, but Damon Hill didn't even make it to the starting line. Good evening. Well-wishers have apparently promised the Catholic Church in Scotland more than £50,000 to help fund its new campaign against abortion. Cardinal Thomas Winning told a conference today his church was willing to offer counselling and help, including money, to women with unwanted pregnancies, whatever their faith and wherever they come from, to enable them to keep their babies. The Birth Control Trust has described the offer as a bribe and a cheap publicity stunt. Our religious affairs correspondent Alex Kirby reports.
Not everyone at this afternoon's meeting was hanging on the Cardinal's words, but what he had to say went to the heart of Catholic worries over abortion. An invitation aimed at any woman facing the possibility of an unwanted pregnancy.
I strenuously urge any person in that situation, of any ethnic background, of any faith or of none, from anywhere, to come to the Archdiocese of Glasgow for assistance.
Abortion, in the Cardinal's view, is perhaps the most serious issue that society faces. He described his scheme as a practical response to a fundamental problem. But supporters of the present law on abortion don't expect the Cardinal's plan will have an impact.
I don't believe it will actually make much difference to women's decision-making because it is a much more complicated issue than merely just financial considerations. Women want control of their lives and their fertility.
The Labour leader, Tony Blair, came in for criticism by Cardinal Winning several months ago. The Cardinal accused him of washing his hands of abortion because Mr Blair said it was a matter for the conscience of individual MPs, not a question of party policy. The Cardinal, here receiving his traditional red hat from the Pope, has also criticised other aspects of Labour policy. Abortion is the one subject that unites virtually every Catholic in revulsion. Even so, many may feel privately that the Cardinals made a dangerously open-ended commitment, offering not just to save children from abortion, but to provide for them for many years after they're born. Alex Kirby, BBC News at Westminster Cathedral.
President Berisha of Albania has agreed to a government of national unity, which will organise new elections. It's the latest attempt to stop the rebellion in the south of the country. The president went on television with leaders of the opposition parties to announce the agreement. Besides new elections, there'll be an amnesty for the rebels, and they'll have another week to hand in their weapons. But as Kevin Connolly reports from Gjirokasta in southern Albania, the rebels are saying they won't hand in their guns until the president resigns.
President Berisha hoped they'd be handing in their weapons today, but in Gjirokasta they were trying them out. On the streets there were children of 10 or 11 with guns and children not much older in charge of them. It is dangerous chaos, with local civilians left to drive around in tanks left by government troops who fled this city yesterday. To some of the young ones, it is all a game, but this deadly playground was until yesterday the southern headquarters of the Albanian army. Troops left when rebels and local people told them to. They had plenty of ammunition, but it seems no will to fight. Yesterday there was just little sign of a political solution to the Albanian crisis. Here today it is difficult even to imagine when order might be restored or who is going to try to restore it. In the historic fortress cities across southern Albania, they don't like being called rebels, and they don't see this as a rebellion. It is rather a widespread absolute rejection of rule from the Berisha administration in Tirana. This local leader was not impressed by Mr Berisha's offer today of a caretaker government and rescheduled elections. He and his followers just want the president to resign. In the key southern stronghold of Vlora, they did see his offer to give them an extra 7 days to hand in their arms as a battle won in the political war against his authority. And like the rebels all over the south, they say they'll only give up their weapons when he gives up his job. Kevin Connolly, BBC News, southern Albania.
Ola Gerin is in Tirana. Ola, has the president backed down far enough to avoid all-out civil war in Albania, do you think?
Well, the main opposition parties are certainly hoping that he has. That's why they've signed on for this agreement. It's an indication of how far he's fallen that he feels he has to offer these concessions. Only 2 days ago he was ruling them out. The key ones, of course, are the holding of new elections by the end of June and the formation of a coalition government. But the problem will be to sell this to the south and persuade the rebels that this is enough to give up their arms for and to give up their fight for.
So what happens if the rebels don't hand in their weapons?
Well, that is a possibility. We're not dealing with a single unified command structure in the south. There's no single leadership with whom to negotiate, with whom to try to agree a deal. We have received indications tonight that commissions have been set up in some of the key trouble spots to try to oversee the surrender of weapons, but we have no guarantee that the majority of the population in these places will go along with that. I think the opposition may have to hit the airwaves here over the next few days and do a job of trying to sell this deal to the people and persuade them that while it isn't perfect, it may be the best that can be achieved.
Ola Gerin in Tirana, thanks very much. The lawyer for the 2 British nurses charged with murder in Saudi Arabia has told the BBC he's about to ask the victim's family to waive the death penalty before the trial started. Matthew Amroliwar reports.
It is a highly unusual move to make this appeal before the trial has even begun. But the Saudi Arabian defence lawyer has been in London briefing the nurses' families on his tactics. He showed them the document he plans to fax to Australia in the next 48 hours, asking the victim's brother to waive the death penalty. In his first interview for the cameras, Salah Al-Hujaylan told the BBC that removing the threat of capital punishment would transform the atmosphere of the trial and let everyone concentrate on the facts.
The fate of any accused person for murder in Islam is really in the hand of the family of the victim. So at one point in time, he has to declare that. While I'm fairly optimistic of the situation of my client, but an early announcement on his part will be quite helpful.
Yvonne Guilford was battered, stabbed and smothered last December. 2 months ago, her family said they would support an execution if the women were found guilty.
I believe in the laws of the land you've got to abide by. Life. Australia or otherwise.
A life for a life?
Well, the Bible says an eye for an eye, doesn't it?
Lucille McLaughlin and Deborah Parry made, then retracted confessions. Although the defence will now be able to cross-examine witnesses, some outside observers are still sceptical about the Saudi system and think the strategy of an appeal before any verdict is extremely dangerous.
Innocent people could be executed unless an appeal is made at the proper time. The proper time might be early, might be late. It's a choice of tactics. It's very dangerous. And these women's lives might well be on the line.
The Foreign Office say no date has yet been fixed for the trial. As for this appeal at this time, it's a gamble, no question. If it works, it takes the pressure off. If it fails, a vital safety net for the women has been taken away. Matthew Amreliwala, BBC News at the Foreign Office.
The MP Sir George Gardner, who yesterday left the Conservatives to join the referendum party, says he's had messages of support from 5 or 6 Tory MPs. Sir George, who was speaking on the BBC's On the Record about his defection, accused John Major of what he called an abdication of national leadership by not ruling out a single currency. The Liberal Democrats leader Paddy Ashdown has been setting out the details of his party's plan to put a penny on income tax to improve education. From Cardiff, our political editor Robin Oakley reports.
Paddy Ashdown's tested his battle bus without waiting for the election to be called. He'll take to the road with the message that Britain needs a party that'll make a difference on tackling poverty, on health and education, and that only the Liberal Democrats are ready to spend the money and raise the taxes required. From the others, there was only fatalism and timidity.
We are told that nothing can be done. We are told that there is no other way. We are told that we must accept things as they are. We are in Britain a can-do nation, but we are being let down by can't-do politics and can't-be-done politicians.
The Liberal Democrats promised penny on income tax would mean an extra £16,000, he said, for a typical primary school, an extra £110,000 for books and computers at the average secondary school, and would cost the average taxpayer 45p a week.
Then the only party who will give you that is the Liberal Democrats. And if that's what you want, then your vote can make a difference, and with your support, we will make a difference.
Seeking to make honesty on tax his party's brand image, Mr Ashdown assailed the Tories for lacking heart, Labour for night-walking into the election terrified of making a noise. He cheered his own troops with their sharpest policies ever on tax, health and education. As the second party of local government, running many more councils than the Tories, they have an answer these days to the wasted vote argument. But if they're going to make the difference they're hoping to, they'll rely on plenty of tactical votes. Robin Oakley, BBC News, Cardiff.
Prince William has been confirmed as a full member of the Church of England. A private service for the Prince, who's 14, was held at St George's Chapel in Windsor. Prince Charles and Diana, Princess of Wales, arrived together. The Queen and the Queen Mother were also present. Scotland's David Coulthard has won the Australian Grand Prix in Melbourne. Damon Hill failed even to make the starting line. From Melbourne, Michael Peschardt.
Most in the crowd had already given up hope of a Damon Hill victory, but the world champion didn't even get the chance to start his defence. On the warm-up lap, his arrows slowed with throttle trouble. A desperately disappointed Damon Hill helping push the car that's been tormenting him in testing all year. But for some of those who did start, their race was almost as short-lived. Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari tried to burst through, shoving off Johnny Herbert as well as the hot favourite Jacques Villeneuve in the Williams. It was a race full of incident, Verstappen in the Tyrrell making a spectacular mistake. Up front, David Coulthard in the McLaren drove the race of his life, fighting off the challenge of Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the remaining Williams seemed to be closing with 3 laps to go, but the man who was given Hill's job had pushed his brakes to overheating, leaving the way clear for Coulthard. Williams without Hill and without any points. McLaren again a force in Formula One.
This is fantastic. This is actually a better feeling than when I won my first Grand Prix for Williams. One, because it was a little bit unexpected here at the first race, especially after I saw qualifying form of the Williams. And I guess I've got Eddie to thank for causing a bit of aggravation at the first corner.
Damon Hill clearly deserves a much better car. It's still too early to talk about David Coulthard immediately taking his title. But British interest in this year's World Championship is certainly very much alive. Michael Peschardt, BBC News, Melbourne.
Here, Second Division Chesterfield have reached their first ever FA Cup semi-final by beating Wrexham 1-0. Their lunchtime victory was followed by Chelsea's easy 4-1 win at Portsmouth and then Wimbledon's 2-0 defeat of Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough. Wimbledon reward is a semi-final against the favourites Chelsea. Chesterfield will play Middlesbrough.
With fans packing every available vantage point, this all-second division quarter-final didn't disappoint. But with so much at stake, mistakes were inevitable, and a defensive misunderstanding was to cost the Welshman dear, as Chris Beaumont was invited to score arguably the most important goal of his career. With both sides bidding to make their first ever semi-final appearance, it was Chesterfield who came closest to scoring again. Beaumont denied this time by the post, and Marriott keeping his side in the match. But despite desperate Wrexham pressure, Chesterfield held on to savour a victory that will go down in the club's history. A good-natured pitch invasion sparked a party that's likely to go on long into the night in this corner of Derbyshire, with a team that cost a little under £350,000, just 90 minutes away from you-know-where.
It's the schoolboy's dream to get to Wembley or to play in the semi-final, the biggest competition in the world, and we're there, and you just can't believe it at the moment.
At Fratton Park, Chelsea's Mark Hughes continued to look like a man with a mission. The Welshman helped his side to a 4-1 win over Portsmouth to keep his dream of a 4th FA Cup winners' medal well and truly alive. And Wimbledon have reached their second semi-final of the season. Robbie Earle scored the first of his side's 2 goals at Sheffield Wednesday to maintain his record of scoring in every round. Sue Thal, BBC News.
That's it. That's all from the BBC Newsroom this weekend. Good night.
Hello, good evening. The weather was dry in many parts of the country today, but with one exception, and that was in Wales. On the radar, we can see that the rain from there through the evening has continued to move up across towards the northwest of England. Much of it fairly light, but a few bursts of heavier rain mixed in there, with that patchy rain transferring through parts of northeast England and into southeast Scotland overnight. There'll be some clear spells in the north for a time, and in the south, though, these are already causing mist and fog to form, and in many areas it will turn out to be a rather misty and murky night altogether, perhaps with a touch of ground frost in a few places. Tomorrow morning, the thicker cloud giving 1 or 2 spots of rain still moving away across the northeast of Scotland. That misty weather holding with some patches of quite dense fog for the morning rush hour. The fog down around some of the coast lasting all day and washing back on shore, but particularly in inland areas of Wales and England it should go by mid-morning. It'll become really fine and sunny. In the far northwest of Scotland, the cloud thickening with some rain, but warm in that sunshine inland.
Here and Now tomorrow, life on the streets. Tony Wilkinson returns to Cardboard City 16 years after his first shocking report for BBC Nationwide.
Tonight you can't stay here.
Just how much have things changed? Here and Now, tomorrow 7:30 on BBC One.
Is the cloning of a sheep called Dolly the forerunner of experiments to clone humans? A big question for Heart of the Matter on BBC One at 11:15.
Good night, sweetheart.
Gary's a new man, ahead of his time.
I'm the dad. I want to see my baby born.
Gary Sparrow, I'd never let you see me like that.
But not so good with children.
First try at fatherhood and you misplaced the child.
Hope you find him. I've got to find him. If I don't, then by the time little Arthur comes to be born, he'll be 54.
Hide and Seek. Good night, sweetheart. Tomorrow, 8:30 on BBC One.